You read the title, right? I made a cosplay of every hermit on the Hermitcraft SMP Season 9. For those who don't know, Hermitcraft is a popular Minecraft server with lots of YouTubers and content creators on it. So to cosplay all of them was an ambitious endeavour certainly, but one I had a lot of fun with. If you want to see them with no more explanation, I would suggest checking out my other social media like TikTok, Twitch or Instagram, where I post each individually and more regularly. Or you can like and subscribe so I know if you want more videos like this on the YouTube channel. But with this video, I'm going to tell you how I started, how I made each one, and a handful of other fans submitted questions I'll answer throughout. To put it simply, how exactly I did it. And hopefully, I will entertain you a little bit along the way. So let's start watching this journey. Phase 1. The unknowing start.
Oh my goodness, what have I gotten myself into?
I'll sum up how I started pretty quickly. When I first started making content, I couldn't make long videos, but I wanted to be a content creator like those who have brought me joy. So I started where I could. Without a computer, on my phone, TikTok. One of the best decisions I ever made was starting where I could. This room is where most of the cosplay parts get made. I will say it looked much different before I started gathering different tools for creation. Even as I moved locations, my room would be where my streams happen, videos get edited, or costumes hang to dry, and before anything else, where my first hermit costume came to be. The first of the hermit cosplays, Grian.
I think he's AFK. Genuinely AFK. Mumbo jumbo, you are AFK. I'm gonna take that mustache away.
I had probably been watching Grian the longest out of any of the hermits, so it felt right for him to be one of the first. Grian's cosplay has surprisingly stayed more or less the same for the whole journey. I know at the time I couldn't make enough feathers for good realism, so I leaned into the cartoonish style. It was made from cardboard panels and glue, then painted into the primary colours to give that macaw-inspired design we so often see in fan art. Later on, I put a thin paper-like foam layer on the earpieces, but they are just the same rounded feathers and a loop of glue that I have not been able to recreate since then, that slip over the ear, like so. One of my favourite facts about it is that the back wasn't painted for several months after I made it, and I was called a biblically accurate Grian for that, which makes 2 times I was called a biblically accurate Grian, one of which being the Watcher Grian cosplay. I bring this up even if it doesn't count for any of the statistics or isn't actually a hermit cosplay, because it stands out as the first cosplay pairing I got fan art of. We love our artists out there. Following soon after was Mumbo Jumbo.
Like, this piece of paper that says Grumbot is proud of you, I kind of want another one.
Well, things have... Oh, he said good luck dads as well.
Oh, has he?
Yeah. So we've gone from creators to dads.
A pair intertwined in the videos they make. I wanted to be able to film videos with the two of them. So with a snazzy new hat I was ever grateful to be gifted, I got to work and made our beloved Mumbo Jumbo cosplay. It was honestly quite simple, really. I got the black wig previously and just restyled it. As for the outfit, I pulled out my dress coat and button up for fancy events to add to the fancy steampunk hat. The moustache, on the other hand, is one of my favourite odd facts that I use for costumes. It is a pop tab that I stuck to this thin foam for the moustache and I turned it into a nose ring. Next, gaining momentum, Impulse SV.
Baby with a gun, over? What? It's a baby with a gun! Over! I will give you £45 for that gun. Or you could just have it, this is a mug.
I didn't have a wig, but I had craft supplies and a lot of content, so I did my best. My best being yellow foam sheets for an eye attached to a black t-shirt and several pins in my hair. I made it work to resemble Impulse's default design. I think now with more experience I would make it more extravagant with a battle axe or a dwarven beard. Although I did add some originality with that yellow hood that I sewed on. I added it because I already had a yellow hood from a previous project and some originality, a way to hide all of the pins in the back of my hair. I thought it would go great. So with many benefits, it was incorporated into the design. To note, the simplicity of the design was part of the appreciation. All the costumes I make are appreciation to the creators. Seriously, props to them all. Literally and figuratively. I've made props of them all. Check out the grumbot my friend made. He has a waffle, and I love him.
He's made a song. Grumbot's a genius.
My last in this early phase of creation is the most changed, so likely the longest part, and one of the top cosplays I ever made. So excuse any tangents, and I could, and just might, make a whole separate video for him alone. Doc M77.
Think he can sense that the brain cell is nearby? So he's trying to stay extra still so that he can finally intercept it.
Here's my confession. He's one I hadn't known very long. I had started watching him for the first time and I was making the Impulse cosplay, which is why he's the last of this technical group. I loved his videos and rambles as I was making my things. One video in particular, at the start of season 9, had him showing off the story of his Minecraft skin. It piqued my interest and brought me joy, so I wanted to remake it. Some packing foam for the eyepiece and a googly eye in the centre. I glued it to my face and there. First iteration of Doc. It didn't work that well. The face paint felt off and the face piece wouldn't stay on. I wasn't satisfied, so I tried to fix it up. Making a cardboard eyepiece, adjusting the makeup, the ears, horns. It changed and it turned into something different. A couple more changes happened in the following year it took to finish making all of these cosplays. As I learned and gained new knowledge, I would adjust. But our most recent filming looked a little bit like this. The arm is made of old socks that I pieced together and different foam scraps and pieces that I puzzle pieced on top. I don't exactly have a big budget full of the fancy stuff, so I work with what I got. One of the most fun parts is adding the little buttons that are actually googly eyes that we paint over, taking the wire from springs for little wires between hand pieces, ribbon and different scrap materials. Even his most recent metal faces are made of cardboard and some wire, but I kept adding and changing until I loved it. It's fun to make different ears and horns for costumes. One pair of ears was made from felt and fluff, another from foam and fur. Some horns are made from foam, others are pre-made and repainted. Of course, in some versions I had pins like of a creeper and TNT and NHO to reference some of his personality things in his videos. Overall, a growing and changing costume, very clearly showing the evolution within creation. All for the GOAT, and the one who sent me into phase 2. The realization.
This ship needs a hyperdrive. We don't have that part.
Maybe we could find one.
What do you think? A spaceship is just gonna appear out of the blue? Are you?
I made those costumes and I found out there are so few cosplays of the Hermitcraft members. A handful of Green, a few of Mumbo. But Impulse? Doc? Jevin? Exuma? What about Zedaf? Or Corrales? Finding any was much more challenging. They are out there. They just rarely get seen. The idea began to form. I wanted to make costumes for the people I loved to watch, regardless of demand. All of them deserve to be able to find at least one cosplayer out there, and hopefully see our appreciation from within them. genuinely thought of making all of Hermitcraft yet, but the idea was teased. I joked about it, and I was excited to keep going. Fifth was Gem. Another hermit I loved to watch. I had paper flowers and different bits and bobs for the crown. The horns were insulation foam I sketched out then carved down into horns that have unfortunately broken so much since then that I added vines and a few more flowers to hide the cracks within. The ears, on the other hand, were my first attempt at using a technique I learned from another Hermitcraft cosplayer named Rain. Without getting too detailed, it's a wire outline within 2 layers of fur with one of foam on the inside. And then later, they get coloured with oil pastels to add different shading within it. That makes it very poseable and very customisable. This technique was also later applied onto dogs, which you should have seen, as well as others that you have yet to see. This cosplay in particular is special to me because it is the first that I wore out confidently. I went to a couple different events in it, such as Ren Fair. Gemini Slay made me feel powerful and pretty, with a mix of a couple of different styles as I worked with what clothes I had. But it was undeniably her. Followed soon after was the 6th, XP Crafted.
That's right, everybody. It's your favorite boy.
Don't think too hard about why he's blue. I made him a fish boy because I thought that interpretation that I sometimes thought was really cool. And I wanted to add some uniqueness to the simple original skin design. So I made him blue horns, inspired by the guardian fish. The first set of horns I made was made of that thin paper-like foam. I had folded over itself and then latex adhered to the face. But I was unsatisfied, so the next time I remade the jacket, full blue on the inside with the black on the out, created by layering 2 different jackets on top of each other and pinning them together. And then I got a lightweight air-dry clay for the itty-bitty tiny horns. I wanted to make all of the hermits' costumes special, because all of their content is different. And what can I say? My fun added detail was that Corrales' princess had a crown of blue guardian horns. After XB was the 7th, Xuma.
Asuma, oh Asuma, you're the greatest up in history. From the Hermit of Craft, you're about to hit a jungle tree.
Making that armour was a blast. I was gifted some of the good foam for this one, and I was getting visibly better at making the costume pieces. But at the end of the day, it was just an experiment that went way better than expected. I tried a couple different designs on paper and with scrap materials before I made the final version, but even still, it got plenty of adjustments throughout the filming process. The cardboard helmet, for example, was pretty broken from the beginning, so after the first time, I cut it down into just this mask. Trinkets were added as different references to things like bone and skull for the bone mage, or a bee for Bizuma, a key to the server, a communicator with different ways that people pronounced his name. Oh, and of course a small pouch, because I need all of my costumes to have at least one pocket accessible. One odd fact for this costume is how I held on to the mask. I have this little piece on the inside that I bite down onto, so that way I can do a quick drop if need be. Like that. For all of the smaller bits, there are a lot of pins to connect it to the black trousers and shirt that I was wearing. The knee pads, however, are held on by elastic. The same elastic that I had cut off the socks that I ended up using for Doc's arm. And the shoes were worn through boots of mine that I didn't want to throw away, so I remade into this. But despite its quirky nature, it held together well, quickly rising to the top of epic costumes I have made. I was invigorated, ready to go, and wanting to make a cosplay of every hermit. So just like I did my costumes, speed through the next couple hermits. Phase 3. Making list, checking it twice. How has this become my new life? I'm joking, I love it, but it is so weird to see my path to getting all of this stuff. So let's keep going. Full symmetry.
He died of natural causes.
You pushed him off the roof.
Yeah, gravity. It's natural.
Mostly just from adjusted clothes I already had. For example, the simple green jacket I had previously bought because multiple characters wear green jackets. And if I had to buy one, get a multi-purpose one. Cursed fact, I wear a Where's Wally or Where's Waldo, depending on where you're from, shirt that gives it that white and red striped shirt effect. It felt odd to already have a lot of those stuff, but it was a testament to how much random stuff I have lying around here that I use for costumes. Goggles again for her flying around and experience, and some fingerless gloves to mimic those brown gloves she has on her skin, still letting me use my phone for filming. Next, B-double-O.
Want a G in the back of your hair?
Yeah. The back of my head is a pristine waffle and I won't hear a word against it.
I made the Moss Man. The cloak was handmade by a friend of mine I affectionately call Void when online. Then I added a combination of actual moss and this fluffy yarn to give it that moss effect around the trim. Eyeglasses are perfection, but very scuffed. Broken and are little foam eyes that I tape onto the glasses that can only be used as decoration due to how broken they are. With my compromise on how to look a part of the Big Eye crew. That and adding some of that white eyeliner under the eyes to make them look a little bigger. Altogether, he's simply a scrunkly man with epic style.
And, like, for no reason at all. Happy Pride Month.
Zombie Cleo. I got to experiment more with makeup. I even made fake teeth that got remade 3 times in a month. Finally, my stash of supplies and skills was growing. So it was becoming easier and faster to finish a design. Leaves attached to butterfly clips for the hair and a wonky flower crown barely wrapped together around twine. I tried to do it that way compared to Gem's crown because I wanted it more than just over the top. I wanted the full circle. Really, Cleo's costume was fun to make. I was so happy to have a wig that was allowed to be frizzy because it fit with the zombie part of the name. I also added an undershirt to make myself feel a bit more comfortable than just in the crop top and shorts. Costumes are great and all, but if you don't feel safe and comfortable, don't wear them. I make many accommodations to my outfits for mobility or for safety, but this was a really easy one to point out for you. Next, Pearlescent Moon.
I don't know what happened.
Why is there no house? Where's your house gone, pal?
I don't know. Someone stole it. They kind of just took it, put it on a boat, and then sailed away.
You didn't like it, did you? What was wrong with it?
It was rotated the wrong way.
I wasn't sure if I should keep Pearl, or Ren for this matter, in this section as she was sort of in between phases. But her costume process was a good experiment. I tried very hard to stick to the original canon design with the white shirt and the black jacket. But it needed something more. The fact about this one is that the first time one of my family members saw it, they looked to it and went, that's just another person. Which, to be fair, it is one of the more simple designs. But because of that and other factors, the next time I got into the costume, I added some more fantastical fandom side of the creation. A different kind of flair, a starry cape, coloured freckles, and a hairpin. I felt more comfortable and content after readjusting. But either way I design it, we love our Aussie of the group. And last, in this speedrun section, Ren Dog.
Now I'm back, got some things I wanna say. Yeah. What's the letter that starts the alphabet? Hey.
I got to find out with the audience what this one would look like. All of the changes I made between the first and second time filming, the first attempt and the second drastically differ. Long or short hair, facial hair, makeup, or just drawn on, sweater or flannel. In the end, definitely the same character, but changeable and adjustable. Likely next time I film it'll be a combination of the two, but the practice of making animal ears and teeth and masculine makeup meant it was a success to me, thus ending the speedrun. Not the video, no, Ren was the 12th cosplay, not the last. So I was scheming and started planning out for phase 4. Slow down.
She knocked that smug look off my face, but luckily I was wearing a second, smaller smug look underneath.
See, I love making costumes, but I do have a life outside of content creation. I also don't get paid for any of this. I had to slow down just to make sure I was balancing life, So as I got caught up in life events and watching videos I hadn't had time for, there was only one new cosplay. Cubfan.
Shh, don't bother me. I'm having enrichment time in my enclosure.
I had to use stuff I already had, which you'll see in all of my costumes, like the old pair of glasses I used for this, and bedazzled with recycled materials, like a bottle cap in sequins. I was always undone for that teveled scientist look. I had my button up, pretending to be a science coat. I generally looked like a tired scientist. I filmed this one like I did and when I did, because I needed to make something new. I have to be constantly making something or another, even when on break. Curb just so happened to be a pretty awesome guy, whose costume I could finish within this time frame. Even with my limited supplies, I was proud of this one. I felt comfortable wearing it. I think the other I could fit into this category would be I realize I'm hypnotized. It was another couple weeks after Cobb that I filmed his, but it was a long time coming. If you weren't aware, in the process of creation, I drop a design for all of the costumes before I start to create them. Surprise, I know, I plan my costumes out. I look at what I have and then adapt. Hypno is one I had planned out for a while, but I wasn't confident in filming it well. So while on break, I gathered the supplies, planned it out a little bit more, watched a few more of his videos with the fancy black coat, corset and beanie at the end of the break, but it wasn't until later I could switch out that black wig that I used for the first one for the more correct blonde wig. His got me back into practice, so we could start phase 5, second wind. I'd sat down and planned out the remaining 12 cosplays, and it was time to get back to the grind. My 15th Hermitcraft cosplay was Joe Hill.
I'm actually impressed you managed to throw that well.
Cleo, I'm perfect in every way. I just pretend I'm not because it's funnier.
I will never be able to accurately describe the Joe Hill's difference, but it's real, and I love it as much as it confuses me. Love the content as well, so maybe I'll confuse some of my friends with a big at on my shirt, fur stuck to my face called facial hair, but who are they to question me at this point in the journey? Another accessory I did was these glasses with a lime green frame that I painted and some rainbow sides that I had left on. There's some nice detail. Glasses themselves felt like a fun way to tie in that lime green you can see sometimes in glasses or his hair or other accessories. I also did start experimenting with that facial hair technique, and I would get better as I went on. So you'll see that evolution going forward. I took a single day off after that, then began moving on to the second wind. Within a 1 month time period, I filmed 8 new costumes, and updated even more, such as going back to Ren, Doc and Gem, with only a small break in the middle, which I call the next phase. 16th, Tango Tech.
Dude, we need to plot these cows in.
Etho.
We need to plot these. Yeah. Calm down.
I'm having some flashbacks, Etho.
Rage moment. Rage
I'm
moment.
having some flashbacks.
Someone I admired a great deal. I wish I could more accurately depict the fan art version of him, but sadly I have yet to learn how to safely set my hair on fire. So this would do. I was making more and more pins and accessories, just having fun with it, such as the Warden pin or the hearts referencing the live series, a TNT and a creeper referencing the boomers, and a little yellow feather referencing a certain canary. I thought the fans would like that one. Interesting fact, the vest is actually inside out. It is red on the outside, black on the inside, but because of that colour scheme I decided it would be fine if I flipped it, so long as I never turned around and showed the tags on the back. 17th. Scar.
And so this dude at the CVS has the audacity to look at me and go, "Ma'am, you can't bring several birds in here." I'm sorry. Last time I checked, this was America.
He's back! Scar was actually the first hermit cosplayer I made over a year before this whole journey started. His presence online was a part of my journey accepting my own disabilities. That being said, Curse you, Scar, for having so many different cool designs to choose from. My compromise was pulling some elements from different sources, though there was one primary source. My favourite detail was actually adding the earrings on that one, because there was things like a moon, or a little bit of skulk, which was a blue gem, and a red feather, to reference his connections to other hermits that are a little bit too subtle to be picked up on camera most of the time. Because it did somewhat resemble his skin from the Life series as well, I added some details from that. Adding the hearts back again, and putting that over the centre. I also borrowed the jacket from a friend of mine, so... Hey friend! 18th, Etho.
Dad? Is this where you've been for the past 10 years? Dad, no!
An OG in terms of Minecrafters, I did my best to depict his online persona and make it distinctly different from just Kakashi Hitachi. I don't actually know. Doing stuff between dyeing a vest green and brown on the inside. I could flip it for different characters. Hints for different references, such as an HO. And the headband itself with the creeper that I had to make the whole thing myself out of some spare ribbon and a little bit of foam and paint and dye and all that stuff. I was actually pretty proud of it. The wig was scuffed, but it got better as time went on. Got worse first, but it did get better. Who you could have guessed reusing the same handful of wigs for all of the costumes would lead to me learning how to style them better. Next, the 19th, Stress Monster, our lovely lady which I adore. Hers is the cosplay most resembling me outside of it all. My regular unstyled hair with basic clothes, of course, with some flair like Thank you, beautiful Passion, for flower finally crown figuring on out me. how to do that without making it very uncomfortable. But with the charm to make anyone feel like a queen. Stress's cosplay was a fun change of pace, of accuracy versus what just feels nice and cool. I added butterflies and dots to the face to add extra sparkle. A simple and cute makeup look. I would argue it's the most comfortable of all of them. Simple costume and design with enough uniqueness to make it stand out, and recognisable with a few subtle details I'm not mentioning. Perhaps a bit contradictory to the name, my Stress Monster cosplay was rather stress-relieving, speeding ahead through this non-stop journey of hermits. Iskal 85.
Hi, I just wanted to let you know that in this household, we do not support transphobia, homophobia. What's another phobia? We don't like spiders either. Spiders are ugly.
I love him so much. He's genuinely such a kind and funny dude. I think most all the hermits are, but hopefully you see the earlier statements apply of this is appreciation for them all. They're all very interesting.
But the thing is that if we build it... Stress?
Yeah?
How have you done this? How have you done this? You look like a horse for me.
Oh my god, are you actually kidding me?
No, you do. You do. You do. There's a bug.
An idiot. There's no bug. Look up, you weirdo.
Oh.
Experimenting with new techniques and learning how to do that cool facial hair thing is how I've convinced people I'm practically a shapeshifter. Iskal was another long time coming. I had planned out several weeks before, but kept tweaking the eyepiece, which was a pain to figure out. I ended up using some older techniques, such as the dryer sheet that you can see right through, that I had used in Doc's costumes before, but we were revisiting, as well as using some popsicle sticks on the inside to give it more shape and a place to stick it onto. Right there goes onto the nose. In terms of content, I was sailing through the list and was slowly but surely growing my platform as well. People knowing me as the one with all of the Hermitcraft cosplays. I could do it. I just had a few more. Phase 6, the final stretch. These could fit into the previous phase, but I did take a couple days off before continuing my second. I began planning out this 6 left. I almost had a cosplay of every hermit and more that aren't included in this video. My 21st was Wells Night.
Welcome, babies, to the Fruity Pebbles Castle of Torment, a scary castle with 100 rats.
I'd run out of the good foam for a full set of armour, but I was working with what I got. And what I got is a willingness to try and figure it out. And I think it worked out fine. It was a base of a white t-shirt with added night headpiece, made from what was left of my supplies, and small shoulder pants and accessories like the arm braces that I had made from packing foam, and then a small sword and shield from little scraps that I had collected. This was also my first attempt at making YouTube videos in cosplay. Hype for making Hermit Gang, even when I could only use my computer camera, so it wasn't the highest quality. Second Hermit on the list, let's go! Papa K. Corrales.
To
Amazing
get to
man
know
with
each
epic plans.
other. Next door is only a footstep away. Everybody needs good neighbors.
Gosh, I spent a long time trying different makeup for him. Like, if I should do the eyes the same way I did B-dubs, or maybe even bigger. The heart was accidental eyeshadow that I had gotten on my face, but then I thought it was cute, so I outlined it and just had a heart for Corales, because Corales loves his friend. He can have a heart on his cheek. I also felt cozy in my kind of wonky blue handmade sweater. I had some pin details, but to me they were like vague references. Of course, this means that I have made more since then. This slightly mixed nature came from the fact that I was debating which version of Corales I should cosplay up until the day I was filming. If I want to lean into the lumberjack of season 9, or the construction worker from before. Or if I would do, like I ended up doing, and stick with that basic blue shirt design. In the end, I ended up choosing the blue t-shirt design over the others because of the nice blue sweater that I had. But it was up for debate for a long time. Long enough for me to find a good segue into our next Hermit cosplay. I Jevin.
Beef. I got a joke for you. What did the grape say when it got crushed?
What did the grape
Nothing.
say when it got
It
crushed?
just let out a little whine.
This one was when the poor white wig kind of shows off its sadness, but worry not, I have fixed it. I love my Jevin cosplay, even if the drips kind of creeped some people out. They were made from hot glue drips that I had made on a glue-resistant block I have, and then, once dried, took them off and adhered them to my face. Do not put actual hot glue on your face. I also tried to give it that slime feel in his little logo made into a pin for the jacket. Totally a white sweater and not a white shirt over a black sweater. I joke, but even if I had a white sweater, I think I would cry trying to keep it clean while wearing full blue face paint. Next, with 3 left that I was procrastinating to film, Vintage Beef.
Very fortunate to have him here today to push our buttons. Hey, Mumbo, thank you so much for coming by. Thanks for having me. This is all quite impressive.
His was delayed because I really wanted an accurate apron. Eventually, when I got one, I immediately dirtied it up, using a combination of craft supplies like oil pastels, markers and paint. I gave it life. I didn't want just red splotches, so I did take some artistic liberties, adding a bunch of colour in it. I also, of course, had my different trinkets, like the compass, ender eyes and an HO. But I also added some several larger ones, like the TCG cards I made, and the Totem of Undyne I had made for a previous project several months prior. Due to my procrastination, that apron is covered in details. some even not visible on camera. Also very procrastinative was Zeta.
Excuse me?
He's dead.
He's dead?
He's dead!
He's dead?
He's dead.
How do you know he's dead?
Because I've got his corpse in front of me.
A lab goat, because everyone needs one. I was actually expected to be much earlier on this list, and it doesn't affect my appreciation. I just didn't want to be quite done yet. So I waited. Eventually I sat myself down and told myself it was time to film. It'd been just over a year since the whole thing started, and I was ready to keep moving. So, still using my nice button-up as a lab coat, I made myself sheep ears the same way I did gems and docks and wrens, little ram horns out of clay. I had my oversized brown shirt that was like his, and that lovely poor blonde wig, pinned to hold the ears down. The goggles hate staying on over everything else on my head, and as for other accessories, I decided not to do too many pins, instead having a little clock, potion bottle and some pens. Then you might be surprised, as Zed was the 25th hermit cosplay I made. There is one more phase. The last phase. The not forgotten. Tinfoil chef. I wasn't sure if I should include him in this. I wasn't sure what would be more respectful. I decided that at the end of the day, TFC is still one of the hermits. And like I said, all of them deserve at least one cosplayer out there. Someone who said, hey, that person's pretty cool, and showed it in this fun, unique way. So I don't make videos of this cosplay like I do the others. I don't want to test boundaries of respect. But here he is. He is never forgotten. Now what to do when you're done? That was a lot. One of the most rewarding projects I have ever done. Still quite a lot. Thank you everyone for sticking through it. Now that I've got more, it's time to play around with it a bit more. Maybe make some more videos like this. Or perhaps I'll continue to adjust the hermit's costumes. Make them even better with time. Likely many different things like that. A special thank you to everyone who helped me make this video, and to different friends and family that helped me make these things. To everyone who stopped to watch or even follow me through the journey. Your support is all greatly appreciated. No, don't expect this to be the end. The costumes will change as I do. Learn and grow as I learn new things. Of course, I'll make new costumes as well. If you want to see that, once again, I post more frequently on my TikTok and Instagram. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And go check out my other stuff. Let me know any questions you have, or just who your favourite costume is. Be nice to each other, and you know I'm always watching something. So I'll see you next time.